In a town like Dust Devil Creek, justice didn't wear a badge. On this day, it wore black. The woman who pushed through the saloon doors that afternoon moved like a shadow against the bright desert sun. Her black dress swept the dusty floorboards as every head turned to watch her enter. The piano player's fingers froze above the keys. Cards stopped shuffling. Even the bartender paused with a glass half polished. 3 men sat at the best table in the saloon, the one by the window, where they could watch the whole town. Bartholomew Thorne, the land baron who owned most of Dust Devil Creek, leaned back in his chair like a king on his throne. Beside him, Kane Bullock cracked his knuckles and grinned at the sudden silence. Sheriff Corbin nervously adjusted his badge, the one Thorne had bought for him years ago. These were the most powerful and feared men in town. They had just sealed their fate. But this wasn't going to be a quick draw. This was a reckoning, and by the next sunrise, their own sins would be the weapon that killed them. The woman took a seat at the bar. She didn't order anything. She just sat there, watching the room through the mirror behind the bottles. Her name was Liliana, though nobody in Dust Devil Creek knew that yet. They would learn it soon enough. The tension in the saloon grew thick as desert heat. People started to leave, one by one, sensing something dangerous in the air. But the 3 men stayed. They always stayed. This was their kingdom, after all. Thorne finally stood and walked over to the bar. He was a big man with silver hair and cold eyes that had seen too many people beg for mercy. He stopped beside Liliana and smiled the way a snake might smile at a mouse.
We don't get many strangers here, especially not ladies dressed for a funeral.
Liliana turned slowly to face him. Her eyes were as dark as her dress, and they held no fear.
The funeral already happened. 2 years ago. My family is buried on land that used to be ours.
Something flickered in Thorne's eyes. Recognition, maybe, or just the first hint that this woman might be more dangerous than she looked.
Lots of families have lost land out here. It's the way of progress.
Progress. Is that what you call it when you forge documents and burn homes with people still inside?
The saloon went completely silent. Nobody had ever spoken to Thorne like this and lived to see the next day. Bullock started to rise from his chair, but Thorne waved him back.
You're either very brave or very stupid.
I'm neither. I'm just someone with nothing left to lose.
She stood and walked past him, heading for the door. At the threshold, she turned back.
Enjoy your drinks, gentlemen. Tomorrow's sunrise might be the last one you see.
Then she was gone, leaving only the echo of her words and the scent of desert roses in the air. The 3 men laughed, but it sounded forced. They went back to their cards and whiskey, pretending nothing had changed. But something had shifted in Dust Devil Creek. The air itself felt different, charged with the promise of a storm. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, Liliana set her plan in motion. She had studied these men for months, learning their habits, their weaknesses, their deepest desires. She knew exactly how to destroy them. First, she found Sheriff Corbin. The sheriff was checking the locks on the bank when Liliana approached him in the alley beside the building. He reached for his gun, but she held up her empty hands.
I'm not here to fight. I'm here to make you rich.
Greed was always Corbin's weakness. His eyes narrowed with interest.
My father buried a strong box before Thorne killed him. It's full of gold coins, enough to set a man up for life. I know where it is, but I need protection when I dig it up.
Why should I trust you?
Because I'm offering you half. More money than Thorne pays you in 10 years. Meet me at dawn by the old Joshua tree, 5 miles north of town. Come alone. If Thorne finds out, we both know what happens.
She handed him a carefully drawn map and disappeared into the growing shadows. Corbin stared at the paper, his mind already counting gold coins. Next, Liliana returned to the saloon. The afternoon crowd had grown, and Kane Bullock was holding court at a poker table, winning hand after hand from nervous townspeople who were too afraid not to lose. Liliana sat down at his table.
I don't play cards with women.
Afraid you'll lose?
The men around the table held their breath. Bullock's face turned red.
I've never lost to anyone.
That's because you've never played anyone who wasn't scared of you. But I'm not scared. Are you?
Pride was Bullock's poison, and she had just forced him to drink deeply. He couldn't back down now, not in front of everyone.
Deal her in.
The game began. Liliana played carefully, losing small hands to build his confidence. She watched him drink, glass after glass of whiskey, his face growing redder with each win. When the stakes were highest, she made her move.
All in.
Bullock matched her bet and raised it. The crowd pressed closer. This was more excitement than Dust Devil Creek had seen in years. As he reached for his whiskey glass, Liliana distracted him with a question about his cards. In that moment, her hand passed over his drink. A few drops of clear liquid fell from a ring on her finger into the amber whiskey. The poison was made from desert plants, untraceable and slow. It would look like his heart simply gave out from too much drinking. Bullock won the hand, as she intended. He laughed and drained his glass in celebration. Liliana stood, leaving her money on the table.
Keep it. Consider it payment for the lesson.
What lesson?
That pride comes before the fall.
She left him there, surrounded by his winnings and his admirers. Within an hour, he would feel the first chest pains. By midnight, he would be dead. Finally, as the sun touched the horizon, Liliana went to find Bartholomew Thorne. He was in his office above the general store, the place where he kept all his forged deeds and stolen papers. She entered without knocking.
I wondered when you'd come. You're the Cartwright girl, aren't you? I thought you died in the fire with the others.
I survived. Just like you're going to wish you hadn't survived this day.
She placed a stack of papers on his desk, his own forged documents, but with new evidence attached. Proof of his crimes that would hold up in any court, even one he didn't own. Thorne studied the papers, his face growing pale.
Where did you get these?
Your former partner in the Capitol was happy to sell them to me, along with his testimony. The territorial marshal has copies. So does the newspaper in the next town. If anything happens to me, they'll be published tomorrow.
What do you want?
Justice. You can face it from a lynch mob when I post these papers all over town tonight, or you can face me in a duel at sunrise. Your choice.
Thorne's ego wouldn't let him show fear, especially not to a woman. His hand moved to the gun at his hip.
A duel, then. Sunrise, at the edge of town.
I'll be there.
But she wouldn't be. She had different plans for Bartholomew Thorne. As night fell over Dust Devil Creek, the three men went their separate ways, each believing they had the upper hand. Sheriff Corbin spent the night studying the map, planning how he would spend his gold. He left town before dawn, riding north with empty saddlebags and a greedy heart. He found the Joshua tree easily, and there, just as promised, was freshly disturbed earth. Someone had been digging. His hand shook with excitement as he uncovered a metal strongbox. It was heavy and locked, but the lock was old and rusty. He broke it open with his gun butt. Inside, coiled and angry, was a rattlesnake. The snake struck before Corbin could scream, its fangs deep in his wrist. More snakes poured out of the box, desert rattlers that had been trapped and starved, made vicious by their captivity. Corbin tried to run, but the venom was already working through his veins. He made it 10 feet before he fell. The sun rose on his still body, another casualty of greed in the desert. Back in town, Kane Bullock had stumbled from the saloon near midnight, his chest tight and his breath short. He thought it was the whiskey, thought he just needed air. He made it to the alley before his heart seized completely. His body was found at dawn, slumped against the wall, an empty whiskey bottle rolled from his dead fingers. The doctor would later say his heart gave out from years of hard living. Nobody questioned it. Men like Bullock often died this way. Bartholomew Thorne arrived at the dueling ground as the sun painted the sky orange and red. He waited with his gun ready, scanning the horizon for Liliana, but she never came. Instead, he heard commotion from the town behind him. He turned to see a crowd gathering in the main street. Curious and angry, he walked back. The entire town stood reading papers that had been posted on every building during the night. His forged deeds, records of the families he had destroyed, evidence of the bribes, the murders, the stolen land. Everything was there in black and white. The crowd turned to look at him. These were people who had feared him for years, who had lost friends and family to his greed. But now his enforcer was dead. His sheriff was gone. He stood alone.
There's the murderer! He killed the Cartwrights.
And the Millers. My brother died because of him.
The crowd became a mob. Thorne reached for his gun, but 20 guns were already pointed at him. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The town he had ruled through fear had finally found its courage. Justice in Dust Devil Creek came swift and final. By the time the sun had fully risen, Bartholomew Thorne was hanging from the same oak tree where he had ordered so many others to die. From a hill overlooking the town, Liliana watched it all unfold. She had never intended to face Thorne in a duel. Why risk her life when his own crimes could destroy him? She had simply lit the fuse and let his empire burn itself down. As the morning sun climbed higher, she mounted her horse and turned away from Dust Devil Creek. The black dress that had announced her arrival now marked her departure. She had come for justice, and she had found it without firing a single shot. The town would remember her as the woman in black who walked into a saloon and somehow caused 3 evil men to die by sunrise. They would tell stories about her for generations, though the stories would grow and change with each telling. Some would say she was a ghost. Others would claim she was an angel of vengeance. The truth was simpler and more powerful. She was a woman who understood that the most dangerous weapon wasn't a gun or a knife. It was knowing your enemy's weakness and having the patience to let them destroy themselves. Liliana disappeared into the desert, leaving Dust Devil Creek to rebuild itself without the shadow of tyranny. The townspeople found Corbin's body by afternoon, bitten by snakes at the place where he thought he would find treasure. They understood then that the woman in black had orchestrated it all. The saloon piano started playing again that evening, a lighter tune than anyone had heard in years. People smiled. Children played in the streets. For the first time in a long time, Dust Devil Creek felt free. Nobody ever saw Liliana again, but her legend lived on. In 100 small towns across the frontier, powerful men heard the story and felt a chill. They wondered if someday a woman in black might walk into their saloon, carrying nothing but their sins to use against them. The desert remembers everything. It remembered the Cartwright family and all the others who had died for Thorne's greed. Now it remembered Liliana too, the woman who proved that justice doesn't always come from the barrel of a gun. Sometimes it comes dressed in black, patient as a desert sunrise, certain as the grave.